At the Metropolis City Center Hospital, a man arrives in a cab. He says he has a new idea, but his friend thinks he's being annoying. The man replies that the world is changing, and this is a job for Superman. As the two friends entertain sick children in the hospital, Superman, Krypto, Supergirl, and Steel are rescuing a pod of orcas. The whales are freed and happily move through the water. In an instant, something hits one of the orcas and kills it. Superman can only deflect the shockwave. As everyone, including the whales, look on in shock, 3 more attacks are made, and Krypto, Steel, and Supergirl are all hit by a mysterious enemy. Though badly injured, Superman's friends and family are fine, but whoever attacked them was too fast, even for Superman to see. At the hospital, something flies through the wall and hits the man dressed as Superman. Not wanting to scare the children, he excuses himself and collapses out in the hallway. In response to all this, Superman and Batman meet up. Batman remarks that today Superman is acting different. Not wanting to exchange pleasantries as usual, Clark gets right down to business, which worries Bruce Wayne. They investigate the hospital, where one of the children says that he saw the man who was shot had a bug right in his chest in addition to all of the blood. The two heroes regroup in the Batcave and discuss possible sources of the attack. Lex Luthor, Hector Hammond, and Cyborg Superman are all considered as possibilities, but Batman says that none of these villains hate Superman enough. Clark has a hard time believing that Lex Luthor doesn't hate him enough, but Batman points out that whoever did this went after Superman's friends and a civilian dressed as him, just because they wore the same costume. Luthor and the other villains would have just gone straight after Superman. Batman says that whoever did this is playing games and trying to send a message. This is not a rational person that Superman or Batman can ever make sense of. What Superman has is a Joker of his very own. Batman says that they will need to protect those close to Superman, but thinking back on his own time with the Joker, Batman says that they won't be able to think of everything, and that loss is all but inevitable. Superman does not take this well, and quietly admits that he does not want to be like Batman. Suddenly, the alarm rings, and Batman says that the computer has been compromised. A voice begins to laugh, and says that he already knows about all the people closest to Superman, and he plans to begin his attack immediately. The villain shows the two heroes 3 locations for the next attack, but as Superman races off to save them, he is already too late. Lex Luthor lays on the ground, unable to move and badly injured. His armor has shorted out and is electrocuting him, and the people around him can't get close enough to help. Luckily, Superman arrives on the scene and tears Luthor's armor apart. Lex is saved, but Superman thinks he is behind all of this. But it seems that Luthor doesn't know anything about the attacks, and says that one of the few people he knows on the planet who could puncture his own armor is Superman. Soon Luthor begins to investigate the latest attack himself. The other man shot was General Ahmad, a leader in the Kandor peace process. His death will mean 20 more years of war in that country. The woman shot was Glory Meow, a pop music icon whose death will crush the spirit of an entire generation. Superman does what he can to deal with these losses for the world, and then meets up with Batman. They start to think about possible suspects, and Superman has an idea. The two heroes travel to the Star Labs Level 7 containment facility at the bottom of the North Atlantic, where they are greeted by a Dr. Kapoor. Though the prisoner housed here is secured, the two want to talk to him for information. The doctor agrees to take them to visit Hector Hammond. Hector is intrigued by Superman's problem, but he wants a memory first in exchange for his help. Batman says he will do it, as they can't risk the villain getting control of Superman. Dr. Kapoor questions what sort of training the Dark Knight has, but he simply replies, "I'm Batman." The doctor still thinks this is a bad idea, but agrees to remove the telepathic protection on Batman for 3 seconds. Hector absorbs Batman's memory of the Joker, and is quite amused. He agrees to help Superman and begins to scan the globe. Only one person on the planet is capable of this evil, and has the intelligence and ability to do all of this. Though Superman assumes it is Lex Luthor, Hector says this one feels quite alien in nature. On a rooftop in Metropolis, a SWAT team is confronting the assassin Lobo. As the situation quickly escalates, Superman arrives on the scene and begins to attack the assassin. Lobo launches several smart bullets at Superman, but Clark is able to dodge the bullets and lead them straight at Lobo. Clark is enraged and demands to know why Lobo attacked all these people, but Lobo says he didn't do this. Superman doesn't believe the assassin, but Batman says the bullets Lobo just used don't match the ones used earlier. Lobo claims he was just looking to get his hands on the gun used for the earlier attacks. The assassin then offers his services to Superman, who tells him to get the hell off of Earth. Lobo curtly replies, "Make me," to which Superman quickly obliges. In space, a voice tells Superman to look down on Earth one last time, and to get ready to see who among his loved ones will burn next. Currently, Batman and Superman have allies and contacts defending Clark's loved ones. Only one person remains unprotected, because, as Batman explains to Lois Lane, they are going to need bait. In Metropolis, a man is being buried. His name is Carlos Chuck Gutierrez. He was a laid-off web designer with emphysema and $97 in his bank account. But every weekend he dressed up as a superhero and visited the kids at Metropolis City Center Hospital, until a madman shot him with an untraceable, vanishing bullet, just for wearing an S. Superman should be there, but instead he is at his fortress of solitude. The hero is getting desperate, as both the world's greatest detective and the most powerful psychic on the planet can't find the killer. He has come to the crystal brain within his fortress, the greatest repository of Kryptonian knowledge and history, for answers. But the database has been damaged in a recent battle with Brainiac. As the crystal begins to crack, Supergirl flies in and stops her cousin. She is angry at Clark for risking the destruction of the database, as the city of Kandor is still missing, and they need the crystal mine to find her people. Superman agrees as he wants to save everyone, but soon they hear the killer laughing at them. Clark demands that the killer reveal himself, but the mysterious voice refuses. Soon Batman contacts Superman and says they have a protective spell on this communication channel. Batman explains the killer wants to break Superman's heart, and will next strike at the person who Superman confides in the most, understands the best, and will be the most missed when gone forever. Batman reveals that Lois Lane has told him everything about a secret romance between the two. Superman realizes what's going on and takes off in their direction, while Batman has set up a trap which will trace the source of the next attack. Superman notes that there is no protective spell, and Batman has set this whole conversation up to be monitored by the killer. He planned on baiting the killer into attacking Lois Lane, and forcing Superman into action regardless of whether he approved of this plan or not. Batman notes that they have incoming targets. 2 of the signals are from Superman and Supergirl heading from the north, while a third races to them from the east. They arrive, and Superman tries to catch the bullet. But the bullet is able to avoid Superman's hands and strike at its real target, the person that Superman will confide in, understand, and miss the most, Batman. Bruce is badly injured. Lois Lane reveals that this was a ruse, reminding Superman that she has a boyfriend, while Superman retrieves the bullet, which they are shocked to discover is actually a tiny Kandorian. The heroes take the Kandorian to a microscopic lab housed by Dr. Ray Palmer, where Supergirl recites a Kryptonian prayer for their lost comrade. The heroes are still without answers, and though Brainiac is a prime suspect, he was dragged through a black hole and should be on the other side of the universe. However, Batman's tracers were able to find the source of the bullet. The signal was traced to the Black Sand Desert in Iceland, where there is a strange circle of glass 2 miles across. The glass absorbs light and blocks radar and cameras, but they can make something out in the middle, in the shape of a bottle. They have no idea what's going on inside, but Dr. Palmer has a feeling it is pretty damn horrible. Behold Kandor, planet Krypton's greatest dream. Her brilliant doctors cured the sky flu, her mighty warriors captured the wicked scientist Dr. Zadu, and her proud citizens laughed off the apocalyptic warnings of Jor-El. How could they listen? Everything they'd ever experienced told them Kandor is forever. Even when Jor-El's prophecy came true and Krypton exploded, Kandor endured. The alien intelligence known as Brainiac had collected the city, miniaturizing and bottling her. And for a quarter century, her people slumbered in suspended animation, awaiting the day that Krypton's last son, Kal-El, son of Jor-El, would find a way to awaken them. But Kal-El got distracted. He fought for Earth instead of Kandor, and in the last terrible battle with Brainiac, Kal-El's fortress exploded, and Kandor and all her people vanished. And that's when I entered the picture, Superman. I took your tiny, abandoned people, and I sent them out into your world, where this yellow sun gave them all your powers, to destroy everything you loved. But why, you wonder? Why? Well, you and your friends have finally tracked me down, so soon you may have your answer. But first, Kal-El, son of Jor-El, behold Kandor, Krypton's greatest dream. In the microscopic laboratory known as the Ant Farm, Dr. Ray Palmer, Batman, Superman, and Supergirl look over the city of Kandor. The damage to the city is clearly the result of explosives. Kandor has experienced war. Unsure of what exactly is going on, the heroes agree to shrink themselves into the bottled city and investigate the source of the chaos. Inside, the three immediately feel the effects of the Kryptonian atmosphere. Supergirl and Superman can barely maintain their flight and feel their powers draining quickly, while Batman is protected by his reinforced suit but is visibly struggling with the environment and says they need to move quickly. They find some Kryptonian soldiers, but Kara notices that something is wrong with them. The man's hearts are beating in unison. Something is controlling these people. The group covertly moves to the home of a trusted friend of Supergirl's, but they find the place ransacked, and Kara's friend Tally appears to be gone. Superman accidentally activates the device, which recognizes his DNA as that of Kal-El. It states that two relatives of Clark's are currently on Krypton, namely Superman's aunt and grandmother on his mother's side. The device then goes on to state that Jor-El was Krypton's greatest villain, who framed Dr. Zadu and exiled him to the Phantom Zone. Superman's father is then accused of destroying Krypton and sealing Kandor within a bottle, which he has bestowed upon his son Kal-El to keep the city within their clutches. Superman is outraged at this slander, but suddenly they are discovered by a squad of soldiers. The men destroy themselves, burning Clark's hand in the process, but Superman doesn't care about this injury. He has had enough and says they are going to the tower. With great effort, Superman and Supergirl fly to the top of the tower to destroy the Kandorians' exit route, while Batman attacks the tower base and frees the captive prisoners. Suddenly, the heroes hear a sinister laugh, and Dr. Zadu, also known as the Phantom King, appears in front of Superman. The King has had an infinite amount of time to plot his revenge in the Phantom Zone, and he gleefully summons Superman's family and Tally, all of whom are clearly under his control and ready to fight. Clark's grandmother always thought her first grandson made a cute baby, but his father came from the cursed house of El. Jor-El attacked Kandor, ripping the great city away from its home on Krypton and sealing it in a bottle, to be looked over by the now adult Kal-El. She and her family were placed in suspended animation along with all the other citizens of Kandor. While their bodies slept, the captive Kandorians remained conscious of everything. The people were trapped and terrified for years. Then the Phantom King came and saved them from this torture. And thus, it is the long-lost family of Clark Kent who will conquer Earth on behalf of their savior. Superman's family brutally attacks Superman, Supergirl, and Batman. Clark's aunt sears her nephew's skin with her attacks, but it is his grandmother's words that hurt the most. Kent laments the actions of the Phantom King, who finds whatever Clark loves the most and poisons it forever. Meanwhile, Lois Lane and Dr. Ray Palmer have used the microscopic laboratory known as the Ant Farm to infiltrate Kandor. Batman sends a coded message to Lois, and in spite of Dr. Palmer's concerns, she insists that they need to help their superpowered friends. Supergirl and Superman are struggling to fight the Kandorians, but they are losing this battle. Kara knows these people. She grew up with them. The last she saw of her friend Tally, they were talking about boys. Now the two are locked in mortal combat, while Clark is reluctant to fight at full force and risk hurting his hitherto unknown relatives. Clark's grandmother, known as Mother Prime, mocks Superman and says she expected more out of him. But Batman has no need to hold back. This isn't his family, and the Dark Knight is well prepared for situations like this. Bruce activates a rod, which, thanks to the Martian Manhunter, contains a sample of Krypton's own sun. The rod suppresses Kryptonian power, but before Batman can make use of it, he is seemingly vaporized by Clark's Aunt Mara. With Batman down, Superman gets desperate and unleashes his full power. But it's not enough, and when the Phantom King calls in reinforcements, him and Supergirl are quickly outnumbered. Having no other choice, Superman detonates the red sun rod in a massive explosion, depowering all Kryptonians in the area. With the Kandorian army out of commission, Superman turns his attention to the Phantom King, telling the villain if he does not surrender, Clark will beat him to death. The former Kryptonian scientist mocks Superman, knowing that the rod also drained Kent of his powers. But his mockery is short-lived when the ant farm suddenly bursts from the king's head, destroying the villain's technology that keeps him in this dimension. The act forces him back into the Phantom Zone. Batman appears, and Superman explains that he wasn't destroyed, but rather shrunk down and rescued by Dr. Palmer at last minute. With the Phantom King gone, most of the Kandorians return to normal, and are grateful for Superman's actions. But Tally, Mother Prime, and Aunt Mara are all still stuck in a mental loop created by the Phantom King and remained obsessed with killing Superman. Sadly, the red sun bomb may have permanently wiped out their powers, which may slow the healing process. Given the Kandorians' current deranged mental state, Batman reflects that for now, this might be for the best. Without any other option, the Kandorians are forced to put Supergirl's friends and family in suspended animation. Lois asks Batman if this is what victory feels like when you come against a bad guy like the Joker, and Bruce says that you have to take what victories you can get. Clark can wallow in misery and fear because of all this, or, perhaps, he can use this opportunity to step into the sunlight and count his blessings. Superman is next seen in Hollywood, visiting his friend Felicity, who twice now has been injured because she knows the hero. Clark feels understandably guilty, but the young woman is not mad. She states that she has absolute faith in the hero, and that everyone is stronger than he thinks, even Superman himself. The King comments that he too is stronger than Clark gives him credit for, as he looks over the many enemies of Batman and Superman. Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and this is the complete story of Batman Superman, the Nemesis Objective. So our regular viewers by now have noticed we've begun to start bundling our recaps into big videos like this one, to help save people the hassle of digging through our videos when they want to binge on some of our coverage. Joey and I are going to start making a habit of doing this as often as we can. These complete stories also serve as a nice opportunity to quickly review stories as a whole as opposed to in discrete chunks like we usually do. This should be of tremendous value as our week-to-week reviews are usually based on immediate reactions to reading a comic. We like to get our videos out as quickly as possible, so sometimes I don't have a lot of time to fully reflect on the comic I'm reviewing. Plus, my opinion of a story on the whole is often different than my opinion of a story in individual parts. This happened with Axis and will likely happen again. This, however, was not the case with the Nemesis Objective. It's no real secret that I found this story to be quite disappointing. For all the hype and promise of Superman getting a Joker-style villain, we wound up getting an old villain who falls so short of the Joker it feels kind of pathetic to me. I went into this story arc with mixed feelings regarding the Batman-Superman series and left it wanting to almost give up on it entirely. That being said, two aspects of the Nemesis Objective were consistently good in my eyes. First, the art was great in every single issue. We have a new artist for this series, and Ardian Syaf does a really stellar work here. He does a great job and clearly does the best he can with what he is given. Second, I really like Lois Lane in this story, and I still enjoy the subtle hints of feelings between her and Batman. As far as I know, this hasn't really been done before, and I find it really interesting. It almost makes me want to keep reading the Batman-Superman series in the desperate hope that more of this gets explored, as I would love to see what Bruce dating Lois does to the friendship between Batman and Superman. For now, that isn't necessarily going to happen, and I might just be imagining things, but I hope they do this as I do find it quite fascinating. But there were problems with this story arc. I didn't enjoy the Lobo cameo, I thought the Kandorians were criminally underused, and I really don't think there's much to this story in terms of substance. Coupled with the disappointment of feeling basically lied to about the story featuring a new Joker-like villain, I'm really not a fan of the story arc overall. But in going over the whole story, some pretty cool stuff did happen, and it wasn't the worst series of comics I've read. Though I don't necessarily recommend this one, it's not like it was the worst either. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments section. We are also proud to announce that we are collecting all our complete story videos on one convenient page on our website. You can check it out for a full list. The link to it is provided in the video description. Also, if you'd like to stay updated with Comic Island, please join us on Facebook and Twitter for all the latest updates within our channel. And finally, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.